Hi everyone, welcome to our FB Live. My name is Christine and I lead the Commerce Partnerships team based here in Facebook Singapore. I've been with Facebook for almost 3 years now and I continue to learn about the dynamic world of partnerships. This is why today I'm excited to be chatting with Sean Ryan about what it is like to be working with the partnerships team, the growth in our team and the challenges and opportunities that's making working in this team a unique experience. I want to make this very interactive, so please do jump in the live and start posting comments and questions. I can see them here on my screen and we'll get to as many as possible. In the meantime, Sean, I'm passing over to you to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Christine. Thanks for having me. So I lead the business platform partnerships team. It doesn't mean anything by itself, so I'll explain the teams, the pillars of that. So I've been at the company about 8 years, joined to lead and start up the gaming partnerships team. This is back in the Zynga and Candy Crush and Farmville days. And so now the 5 teams that roll up into my org are the gaming partnerships team, the audience network team, which places our ads into other people's apps, the workplace team, which offers Facebook Inside and Enterprise for collaboration, the payments team, which works with payment partners around the world so that we can get paid for SMB ads as well as move money. And the newest team is the marketplace or commerce team, which you're a part of, which really works with B2C merchants bringing their inventory online and working closely with the commerce platforms that are out there, like a Shopify or a Demandware.
I would agree that that's actually a really diverse set. And after being 3 years in Facebook, I'm really fortunate to be part of the team and excited to be part of the partnerships organization. I've seen how the partnership organization has grown and the impact that's landed on our partners and communities that we serve. And I'm really excited with that opportunity to be part of this team and seeing how diverse the product and the partners and the internal stakeholders that we work with. That's how I would talk about partnerships. Sean, in one phrase, how would you describe the partnership organization and why would you say that it's exciting for us and yourself to be part of the partnerships world today?
Sure, the partnerships org really encompasses the businesses that are not part of the core ads business. So all of the new and emerging businesses, whether it's gaming, whether it's marketplace or commerce or mobile partnerships, and when we say partnerships, what it means is working with third parties, so companies that are not part of Facebook, to work closely with them to drive value for our consumers and for them, so that in the end, Facebook is a more valuable platform. In the early days, it was user-generated content and we sold ads around that, and that was simpler in some ways. But now in these newer businesses, we need the partners to be successful for them to continue to provide content and other types of products for our consumers. So that's what this team does around the world, is work in region or in country with key partners. So for example, in autos, we need large dealership group and aggregators to bring their autos to marketplace so that it supplements the C2C offerings that we have. So the partnerships are the most externally focused part of the company, working closely to both represent Facebook interests, but also to represent partner interests, and to come back and work hand in hand with the product org to help influence the product so that it's a win for our consumers and it's a win for our partners as well.
Would you say that there's also organic value that we actually deliver to our partners that's complementary to how the sales organization
Yeah,
works?
it's not that simple. In the old days, it was. There was paid traffic was the sales org, and we were the organic traffic. And that's when Facebook was primarily about driving large amounts of viral traffic to other companies' sites.
Yeah.
That's changed a bit as Facebook has broadened out what we do. So if I look at a workplace or an audience network, that is really a traditional go-to-market sales-like team. When I look at payment partners, it's really about finding out who are the best partners in each country, making sure that we integrate them into the platform with the product team, and that therefore our consumers and small businesses can more effectively purchase things. So when Marnie Levine, who now leads the overall partnerships org, took over a few months ago, we presented each of our verticals to her to get her up to speed. There were 29 presentations across the entire org. So that gives you an idea of the breadth of what's going on in the partnerships org, and that's why it's really exciting. The second reason it's really exciting and why I continue to love it is that it's global. At the end of the day, most of our consumers are outside the United States, and most of our partners are outside of the United States, and most of my team has historically been outside the US. So that global impact is what I really love about the partnerships org.
So if we go back to the scope that you cover, you have enterprise solution, which is workplace, and then you have very heavy consumer-driven products like gaming. What would you say would be the value that partnership brings to businesses and the communities that we engage with? Because I know that in the gaming space, we're working a lot with influencers, we're working a lot with the gaming community, and then there's enterprises. How would you describe that in terms of like the value that we actually bring across this broad spectrum?
It's hard to simplify it down because the mandate of my org is so broad. So in Workplace, it's very simple. It's a sales organization, enterprise sales. We bring a piece of software that we've developed ourselves that we use internally, Workplace, that makes companies and their employees far more collaborative, far more effective. But you have to sell it into them to explain the value. On something like Marketplace, what we're bringing is we have a lot of traffic already coming into our Marketplace and Instagram shopping areas looking to purchase goods. We now need to make sure that we have enough inventory for them. So we're bringing, as we always do, connecting our audience with third parties so that it is a smoother transaction and hopefully a more efficient way for companies to drive value for their business, whether it's in actual sales or gaming revenue or followers for video content influencers or traffic to media organizations. It really spans a pretty wide number of business opportunities right now, which is why it's so hard to explain it in a short sentence.
So given how diverse the scope that most of us in partnerships cover, if you could think about a summary of how the partnership vision for 2019 and beyond would look like, what would you say that would be?
The partnership vision first is to be a better global partnerships org, which is really focus on not just being too Menlo Park centric, where we still build most of our product. So of my orgs, 2 of the product orgs and my leaders are not based in Menlo Park. The global leader, one is based in London for Workplace and one is based in New York for Audience Network. So I think that's a step forward, that we are now diversifying where product is built over the last 5 to 10 years and also where partnerships leadership is. The second is we always have to remember to represent the views of the partner. We are the experts in understanding their businesses, and we have to help influence the product team. And so we always need to go deeper into understanding our partners' businesses so that it's a partnership that makes sense, where they drive some sort of value, generally revenue, but not always. We bring a better process for our consumers to find what they're looking for. And in the end, Facebook does well because consumers are happy and merchants are happy, and they're bringing some sort of product to us that we couldn't build ourselves. Gaming, we don't build games. We don't aggregate autos ourselves. We don't run payments ourselves. So that's why the value of partnerships is so important. And that's so I want to be more global. And I want to be more in post-2019. I want to deeply understand our partners' revenue models as we continue to test ours to make sure our partners are happy with the partnership. Otherwise, they will find other partners.
I agree. I've definitely seen this evolution over the last 3 years where the partners and the teams in the region are getting a stronger voice and getting better representation to make sure that we get more diversity across the globe as we think about how we build products. So I'm going to take that and then move into a question that's more centered around just how we build teams across the globe. I still remember when I first came through interview with Facebook, I met with a lot of partnership folks. Everybody had a partnership title and everyone was sitting all across the globe. And I was very confused, just the diversity of the teams and also how everyone was actually located in so many locations. Could you talk to us a little bit about how our audience can understand how partnership is structured and how we're going across different regions and why it's important for us?
Yeah, the way most teams are generally structured along the following lines. You have a global lead, often based in Menlo Park, but not always, to be closer to product. Where over time we're trying to diversify that out, so it's not just Menlo Park. Then you tend to have regional leads. I still believe that people are better off in teams near each other. It's always hard with small teams, smallish teams, to be tempted to put one person in each country. We prefer, one way or the other, there's going to be travel, as we all know. So, for example, here in Singapore, we have most of my teams are entirely based here and go out to visit certain countries if they have pods. So they may have a North China or a South China or a Southeast Asia pod. In certain cases, as in your team, there may be specialists that are also around each vertical. So maybe someone's focused on motors, or someone's focused on real estate in commerce, for example. Or in gaming, someone's focused on video creators, or someone's focused on instant games. So it really comes down to, as you look at your employees, is first having distributed teams out closer to where the partners are. so they understand the regional differences. Second is having enough career paths for the employees to be able to switch. You don't want someone who only wants to be in motors for the rest of their life, unless that's what they really want. And so out in the regions, we want to make sure that we're encouraging the partnerships teams to move both region to region as well as between the different verticals.
And being in region as well gives us the opportunity to work with our peers across different functions locally to better coordinate and better strategize on how we want to take or hone in opportunities better. Cross-functional partnership is a core, internally is a core piece of how we build success in Facebook and how we operate. How do you say you will inspire collaboration across different functions and regions?
It's the hardest part now as we grow. We're a cross-functional, we're a matrixed organization. So the only GM we have is really Mark Zuckerberg. And so we have to figure out how to work together to come to answers when it's not clear who can make the decision, and not every decision can go to Mark. So when we look at cross-functional cooperation, it is the number one, as you get more senior in the org, it is the number one characteristic we look at during the review process, is how is the collaboration going? It doesn't mean we have to agree all the time. We're an escalation culture, and so we're okay if Deblu, my product counterpart, and I disagree, then at some point, if it happens, we escalate up and the decision is made. But collaboration and respectful collaboration where we bring industry expertise and our partnership views, our partners' views to the table, and work with the other cross-functional orgs like the product org, the BPM org, it could be finance, it could be legal, and together we craft, hopefully, a relationship that makes sense for the partner and for Facebook.
You're in Singapore and in the APAC region this week, and I think you do recognize the amount of diversity we're seeing in the Singapore office and in many of the offices that we're in. What efforts are you making to ensure that we continue with this diversity across global partnerships team that is represented in the breadth of the people that Facebook products serve?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'd say we still have a ways to go, but I think we started a couple years ago in partnerships with the diverse slate approach, also known as DSA. And what that does is require that during the recruitment process, that there is a diversity of candidates you consider. Doesn't mean you must choose a certain candidate. It just means you encourage and in most cases require people to recruit a diverse slate. That'll be the best way for us to get diversity, is start with the pipeline of making sure that we are looking far and wide for the types of people who will be successful at Facebook. They can't all look and feel the same. We value diversity of opinions. It's the strength of Facebook. It doesn't mean they don't share certain characteristics. So you have to be comfortable with fluidity, is what I explain it, which is we don't know exactly what we're doing in 2019 or 2020 or 2021. We know directionally where we're going, but the nature of this company is that the type of candidate we do require to be here is someone who's comfortable with change, comfortable with risk at a certain level. Not risk for their job, just we don't know exactly what your job will be a year or two from now. I find that exciting. My job has changed dramatically in the last 8 years and continues to change. And I don't think we should ever lose that as a requirement for all new candidates. But I also believe that sometimes as we look at these new businesses, I believe that we are sometimes overemphasizing resumes from external candidates and underemphasizing success at Facebook. Meaning, when you joined the commerce team, as we started up the commerce team here in APAC, you didn't necessarily have a strong commerce background, but you had been successful at Facebook already. And we knew that, from my point of view, the best indicator of future success is current success at Facebook. That's the reason I came about to be running an enterprise software company, enterprise software business of which I have zero background in. And I may not even be the best person to do it forever, but the nature of what we do here is we need candidates and people, both internal and external, who are really interested in change, who are interested in possibly switching careers, switching verticals, switching regions. That's what I look for, is the willingness to take risk. When I recruit, what I look for often are people who have been successful at large companies, but have also at one point gone to a small company. Even if it's not successful, it doesn't really matter. My startups mostly failed. But really is that's the type of person we look for, and that I don't waver on that requirement, which is be acceptance of change, be willing to change. Yep. But I really believe that there's a diverse set of people in the world who can come in, and that's where we need to fix focus on fixing diversity. And then once inside the company, we have programs like managing bias or other types of human resources related programs that I think have also been quite successful at making sure we're allowing for diverse viewpoints. We don't always have to agree on everything, but as I will say, the one agreement we have to have is that inside is we are all working for one company.
Yep.
There's no question politics exists in the world as long as humans exist, but generally, as I always say, the enemies are on the outside, not the inside.
Agree. And to your point, I'm really fortunate to have this opportunity to actually move between teams during my time with partnerships, and currently part of your team, which has been amazing. The opportunity has been that I've had in terms of transition has been seamless. I've really enjoyed how I've managed to take advantage of this movement to touch different aspects of technology and also the kind of products that we work on and the partners that we work with externally and internally. As a leader, what is career mobility like inside partnership? I think you've seen a lot more of that. You move more people as well. And is this mobility that we're talking about within just partnerships? How is it like outside partnership? Do we encourage that? Do we actually have opportunities that allow for people to move within Facebook more broadly?
So I highly encourage it, and I ask all of my leaders to do that as well. When I hear someone's moving, generally I'm happy about that. Not because I'm happy to lose them, but I'm happy that we're encouraging people to move between teams. I really believe that's how we grow as employees and as people, is to try new experiences. It's been successful for me, not that it's always gone perfectly, but I've learned each step of the way, and that's helped me grow as a person. So I think we should always be encouraging movement, particularly geographies where possible. When I was younger and working my way up through different companies, I didn't have the opportunity to work overseas or in different regions. If we can, I highly encourage that, and I really encourage people to switch teams. Now, here and there, we also move out of partnerships. Some people move to product. Some of the partner engineers move over to core engineering. Some people move over to finance. Some people move to the sales org and back. And so I think it's always a measure of success for this company that after 2 or 3 or 4 years, people start to look around for other opportunities so they can also grow. And I really, when some of the employees, 2 employees told me they were moving this week actually back in Menlo Park, and they were scared to tell me. And I said, I'm not unhappy at all. I said, I'm only unhappy if you're leaving to get away from something, then I'm unhappy.
Yeah.
But if you're going towards something, that's always a good goal for all of our employees, and it's good for the company.
I agree. There's always that inherent fear amongst us, but what I've experienced, at least for now, at this point, with the change and the move that I've taken, is leaders in Facebook has been very encouraging in movements within the company and the ability and opportunity to expose ourselves to different products and different roles.
Yeah, I find it's a sign of success as a leader if other organizations want your talent. So that means you brought in good talent, and that's great, and that's what we really look for. We look for obviously smart and hardworking employees, but who want to have impact, but also ones who can work collaboratively.
Great.
And what that means is when you're known as someone who can work collaboratively, other orgs want you to come join them in their org, because that we know that's what makes us successful at Facebook, is working together.
I'm going to move to questions from the floor now. I'm seeing a lot of questions that have come through. So let's start off with the first question from KL Cole. Is the value of partnerships team assessed based on the revenue attribution or non-monetary value? How does partnership drive value? Which is a great question.
My orgs tend to be revenue driven. I prefer revenue goals. Doesn't mean they all have them. So it could be very different. If you look at some of the groups in community, for example, it could be about MAP. It could be about monthly active users. We try and have quantitative goals for all of our teams, both at the corporate level and at the team level. But we also understand that not all teams are the same. So we definitely have a revenue goal for gaming. We have, for Marketplace, we had one around inventory, because you have to start by bringing in inventory. Then we had one around interactions, and eventually we'll have one around revenue. Because at the end of the day, that is what, in most cases, our partners want. They want to convert a transaction to somehow get value. In the old days, a few years ago, we would just deliver them traffic. Now, in today's world, what we're often doing is bringing a transaction to them or some sort of qualified consumer that generates value for them. So I prefer to have revenue goals, but it's not realistic given the breadth of the org. So for example, in mobile partnerships, they have a goal of adding a certain amount of new consumers through the deals they do with mobile carriers, through their growth goals. Those are just as valuable as revenue. No one should think that revenue is the only metric. It is one of the metrics that we use. At the end of the day, it's partner value. If we're a partnership org and we need partners to be successful for us to succeed, then they have to be getting whatever value they need.
Agree. Next question coming from Darren Lee. To Sean, what factors does FB emphasize from someone coming from a different function moving into Facebook?
I'm not sure I fully understand the question, but I would say is, so if you're coming from, it's still the same. You know, when we look at values here, it's if you're internal and external, it's have you shown you can work collaboratively, and do you have examples of that? At the end of the day, especially as you move higher in the org here, that is how we look at impact. Second is, do you think you can work in a highly fluid atmosphere, as I said, one that changes we do a review process every 6 months because the organization and the business changes so quickly. Are you comfortable with that? We've found so far that in certain cases, people who I bring in from the outside are not comfortable with that level of change and ambiguity. Third is, we are always working understaffed. And so we need employees who can prioritize or work with their managers to help prioritize, because there's always more work than we can do.
Yep.
So how do we work with our cross-functional colleagues to automate whatever we can automate, to ruthlessly prioritize what are the top 2 or 3 or 4 things we're going to do? And that's hard. As Cheryl always says, you know, compromise or prioritization is only real when it hurts. Because if you're prioritizing and you're still doing everything, it's not prioritization. So that's what we find is people need to be comfortable with that, is that they're only going to be able to accomplish some of the things we need to do. And that is not always easy for people who are used to accomplishing everything.
The next question comes on Z1. To drive more partners into the Facebook platform, does Facebook strategically limit its capabilities to build services, such as games and commerce, to avoid clashing with other providers?
It's a good question, and it's always, when I was on the non-Facebook side, and you watch a Google or a Facebook or an Amazon, and they kind of go sideways into your space. And it just is horrible for all it feeling is horrible, and whether they did it on purpose or not. So when we moved into Marketplace, and which was already taking place, in these cases what we're doing is these types of transactions are already happening on our platform. What we're trying to do is make it more efficient for consumers and for the merchants that are there. Otherwise, they'll just do it somewhere else. So we don't ever look at, hey, there's a business we should go into. What we really look at is what is happening already on the platform. And the best example is the original opening of the platform. So the original opening of the platform, which was roughly 10 years ago, we assumed at the time that it was going to be a wide variety of apps were going to use it. This is the old PC platform. It turns out 99% of the apps were games. And games were driving all the value, and no one at the company knew anything about games, which thankfully is how I came to Facebook. But that was a surprise. So whenever we deliver tools to our consumers and to businesses, I am often surprised how they use them. Generally positively surprised, not always. And so we try not to lumber into other people's categories unless we really think we can bring an advantage to our consumers. And in many cases, we do that by partnering with the players in the category as well.
Sure. So in summary, it means that we are basically looking upon our users to tell us where we should be investing to build a better experience for them.
Yes.
And then the partners who are anyways there will take advantage of how we're actually adding incremental value to them.
So a good example would be Marketplace. So when we look at the search terms in Marketplace, 2 of the top 10 search terms, or 3 in every country, are auto-related. People are already using Facebook's platform to look for and buy and sell cars from each other. But we've made it really hard. Same thing with real estate, same thing with cell phones. So now what we're doing with both real estate and motors so far, and more coming, is making it easier. We're not going into the real estate business. We're not going into the auto business. We are bringing partners along to make them more efficiently connect to consumers. We're not doing this just for the good of us. We're doing it because we know we will generate some sort of ancillary benefit, whether it's greater advertising revenue or potentially a revenue split of the transaction. But at the end of the day, we always look at how can we more efficiently connect our consumers to what they're trying to do, whether it's with each other or whether it's with businesses.
Got it. We've received a number of questions from the audience on what kind of skill sets and prior experience is required to join the partnerships team. Can you share what are some of the key skill sets and experiences that you look for?
Yeah, we've talked about it a little bit. We always look for the basic Facebook characteristics of extremely smart, track record of success, hardworking, able to work non-politically in a company, and able to work at the speed and impact that we look for. So I think those are baseline attributes. There's nothing special. It comes down to each vertical what we look for. And like I said before, in commerce, for example, I don't think we should necessarily only have people who have worked at a Flipkart or an eBay or an Amazon. There should be a variety of backgrounds, because at the end of the day, we're normally not recruiting you just for what you do today. Otherwise, I'd still just be doing games. We're recruiting you because you're an athlete. When I say an athlete, what I mean is someone who can do many things, who can be successful, hopefully, in the job we hired you for. But eventually we may ask you to do something else, or you may have an opportunity to move to a different team. Which means, so when I, for example, looked at the autos category, which is a big category, I interviewed 20 people with autos experience. They were great about autos, but they weren't necessarily going to have the characteristics we needed to build a business from scratch here. And so the team that we have on autos right now has no autos experience. But they like cars, and they're really smart, and they are successful at Facebook. So when I say skill sets here, there's nothing specific. We try for some industry knowledge or some industry interest. You don't want to be in an industry that you don't like at the end of the day. But outside of that, most of our employees can be successful at many things, which is why I'm always happy to move them around. But I wouldn't say there's any specific industry characteristic we need for partnerships.
And there's always a factor of choice that our employees have in terms of whether this is what excites them.
Yes.
Because we believe in leveraging people's strength and ensuring that people does things that they love.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean, it's like all relationships, it doesn't mean every single day I love it. It just means by and large, it's awesome. And there are days that are challenging. And as my father would say, that's why they call it work. But it doesn't mean it's not exciting and interesting. And there's just I've worked at 8 different companies, some small, some large. The amount of global scope we have here and impact we have as a company is just extraordinary. And the leadership team we have from Mark and Cheryl and everybody else on the team is just extraordinary. And so that's what I always say is when people say, why are you still at Facebook? I say we have an extraordinary leadership team, we have global impact, and we do good for the world, and we create value for shareholders and employees. And all those things are important. And that's why I always encourage people to come here. There's people these days who are reading too much of the news and occasionally, and you forget how much good we do.
Yes.
And how much value we help drive for small businesses and for partners. One of the partners, I'll give you a quick story. We were in India 2-3 years ago at a dinner, and I was asking one of our possible partners to build a thanks bot. And he's like, it's too easy, I'm not going to do that. By the time I landed 2 days later, he had already built the thanks bot, ended up selling it into a large set of our customers, and then just sold the company last week. That's a great story.
Yeah,
Someone who
awesome.
started and sold a business based on the value created, what they worked for on Workplace. We do that all over the world, and that's what makes it exciting when you see partners succeed due to the collaboration they've done with Facebook.
That's an awesome story to share as we are wrapping up. I believe we've ran out of time. It's been a great discussion, Sean.
Oh,
thank you for joining us and sharing all your nuggets of information and insights. We are up for a wrap. Thank you everyone for joining us today.
And if there are any further questions, feel free to just message me on Workplace.
If you have questions, please check out our careers page, facebook.com/careers, or post them in the comment section of this live session. All right, thank you everyone. We're here to say
Kristen.
bye. Bye.